Alright, so Adam Smasher, we can all agree he is a mechanical beast. There's a reason he's a living legend, even if you can't really call it a living with all of those implants, but he is by far the scariest anti-hero in the Cyberpunk lore, and his entire kit is so powerful the game can't even properly portray it. Today though, I tried running with a build that at least attempts to match his level of power. And I'm saying attempt because some of the things he does are very difficult to replicate in-game. One of them is the fact that he carries a heavy machine gun all the time, the ones that you get, for example, from ripping the turrets or large enemies when you have a high body count, but you can't really keep those in your inventory and it eventually runs out of bullets. So the closest to them are LMGs, and in Cyberpunk 2077 you really have only two options. The first one is the Defender LMG, while the other one is the newly added MA70HB from patch 1.6. Either of them work really well actually, like the Defender has slightly lower damage but a much larger magazine size of 100 and a significantly faster fire rate. Meanwhile, the MA70 has a lower magazine size of just 70 but also a higher damage to compensate for that. In both of these situations, what makes the build shine is the less need to reload and the longer damage uptime due to both weapons having more bullets. And both weapons are easy to find, by the way. You can just grab an epic variant of them from almost any weapons vendor in Night City. But Adam has more than just this. He also features a hand-mounted cannon and a shoulder-mounted rocket launcher. We can probably make up for the hand cannon with our own rocket launcher implants, but the damage on that is so weak, I almost completely just like scrapped it out of this build to maybe use something else instead. And obviously there's no equivalent to Adam's shoulder-mounted rocket launcher, so to compensate for both of these shortcomings and to also kind of like implement that fury explosion he has into his own build, we went with grenades, buffed the heck out of them in the engineering line that we'll talk about in just a little bit, so it kind of makes it a little bit more fun and a little bit different, playing with that soldier theme that Adam is also supposed to be. That's why in this case we used attributes to reflect that. So the split that I'm going with is 20 body, 20 cool, 18 tech, and the rest are being dumped into reflexes. And before you ask, no, I did not forget that Sandevistan, at least for the legendary qualities, require at least 15 into reflexes. There's a problem here with this and the combination I'm running with because the slow time effect just doesn't work well with bullets. When you slow time, it doesn't magically make bullets travel faster, they still go at the same speed, you just perceive them way slower. So in this case, the only one that's moving faster is you, your melee attacks, and maybe tech weapons too, since they shoot instantaneously, but otherwise, with bullets, it doesn't really translate to good gameplay. So technically speaking, we kind of had to run away from that. You can still use a Sandevistan if you want to, but maybe a Berserk will work a little bit better. Or you can use the Sandevistan but with a tech weapon instead, or maybe some melee. Not a big deal though, because precision in this case isn't really as important with the LMGs, so you can just do it all in real time, and the Annihilation tree in the body stat gives us exactly what we need in terms of LMG damage. This shares, by the way, the similar setup with the shotgun build, since all of these perks affect both of these types of weapons, so you can just run with them. Even the speed demon and the other movement buffs here work well with the Adam build, as he wouldn't be the type to not be able of carrying even the largest weapons, given his body that he augmented to pretty much hell and back. Further pushing it to 20 also lets us unlock the ultimate bloodbath for even less recoil, and this build is so precise even with a weapon like an LMG. Now the athletics is another line that we're paying close attention to, since we're trying to create an invincible tank, so we're paying special attention to all of these perks that increase our health regen both outside and inside of combat, and the perks that gives us more health, stamina, damage reduction, and even immunity to knockdowns. I just couldn't imagine Adam Smasher being easily knocked down by anyone. Now in the cool stat, and especially the cold blood, is where it becomes even more interesting and what makes us truly immortal. This is mostly because of Blood Swell, which now prevents death, consumes all cold blood stacks available, and heals you 10% for each of them, Plus, it also makes you completely immune to damage for a whole 5 seconds on a just 15-second cooldown. Furthermore, immunity makes them even easier since now we have complete immunity to bleed, poison, burn, and shock if we have at least 4 stacks of cold blood, which we'll always have because of the coldest blood perk that now lets us reach all the way up to 5 stacks of cold blood with this tree. In this case, this couples so well with the heat converter. This basically converts any burn damage done onto you into 10% additional damage that you can deal on target. So if you run against, for example, a group that runs with a netrunner that constantly uses overheat on you, not only do you not get one single point of damage from that, you convert it into more damage for yourself, so you will actually turn their tools against them, which I find quite ironic that this build is already so strong. And everything else from this point on further buffs our defenses, resistances to damage, HP regen, on top of some extra damage to headshots and whatnot. So again, we reached 20 points here. We became almost immortal, if not fully immortal mechanics wise, but it also gives us access to Merciless at 20 for a significant boost to crit chance and crit damage. So yeah, you are a tank, but you still deal some of the highest damage in Cyberpunk 2077. Now, technical ability, if you want to run with that with the same build as I do, this is going to be helpful for that high armor, and with the massive 40% from the cold blood on top of that and all of the other like damage mitigation sources, you're going to be completely immortal on very high difficulty, even if you don't literally do anything. Like, you can just stay there, face tank damage, and nothing will damage you at all with just a couple of cold blood stacks. So you can go with this or just sacrifice technical ability and go back to Sandavistan with more reflexes, but then yeah, just get legendary armor from other locations if you want to. Now, gameplay wise, this plays like a flying tank really, and I'm not even joking. I added the fortified ankles from Finger's Clinic, so now I can hover mid-air when shooting. Not only does it provide a great tactical advantage, it's also pretty ominous if you think about it. A 10-ton tank just randomly hovering above you while you and your friends are literally getting decimated. Shock and awe, the upgrade you get from the Ripper Dock in downtown, also makes a lot of sense. You tank all of these bullets, might as well just make them work for you. So now you have a 10% chance each time you get hit to unleash a massive EMP around you, which stuns and deals a ton of damage to enemies. So totally worth to even face tank them if you want to. The second heart, bioconductor, and like the biomonitor provide you even more ways to survive no matter what. So even between these, you are literally unkillable, but with the others, you are kind of becoming that, a god in Cyberpunk, if you will. And to ensure we have enough headroom, the high body stat let us also add a signal optimizer. You can get the legendary variant from the Ripper Dog in Charter Hill. Gives you like that extra 60% HP, so we can reach 1000 with this build. And this also kind of makes the grenade aspect of the build work a little bit better, because now you're so tanky and you can also invest points into all of these like grenade buffing abilities and damage reduction from your own grenades. You can face tank your own grenades, but they will still deal damage to any nearby enemies. So you can just walk in, place mines, grenades, or whatever anywhere you want, and just like unleash hell on the battlefield. The only dilemma you might have here is in terms of the ballistic processor or maybe the smart link, depending if you want to use the rocket launcher on your hand or not, because it requires a smart link to work. But the ballistic processor gives you a ton of damage to ricochet, and in the case of these power LMGs, they actually contribute a lot to the damage. These will ricochet all over the place and you can take down multiple enemies at the same time. Totally comes in handy, and besides, the rocket launcher isn't really that great either. But yeah, this pretty much concludes our Adam Smasher build. I kind of wish there were more tools in game to let us get close to his power, but it also makes sense. We can't just be a copycat of one of the most iconic characters in the Cyberpunk lore, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time.